coming to bed, honey?
Yes, dear.
It's time to take a look at another RuneScape-like that's been on my radar for a little while now. RuneScape has had numerous phases in its lifetime. The various eras of RuneScape consist of RuneScape Classic, which is the launch version of RuneScape that had the 2D sprites in the 3D world, RuneScape 2, the version that released with an updated engine and 3D graphics, which essentially resemble how old school RuneScape looks nowadays, and then the modern era of RuneScape, which is referred to as RuneScape 3. All of the RuneScape likes I've covered so far on the channel were modeled after the RuneScape Classic era, meaning simple 2D graphics in a 3D world. Today's game we are covering, though, finally steps into the RuneScape 2 era of graphics with 3D models and assets that are clearly trying to mimic the early days of what was known as RuneScape 2, or at least it's trying to.
Come on now, dawg. Come on, man.
Remote Realms, a relatively unknown free-to-play indie MMORPG project that has been cooking around in the internet for a few years now. Never heard of it, you say? Well, I can't really blame you for not knowing about it, considering it hasn't really been advertised anywhere, except for maybe Reddit. Developed and published by Tedis Software, Remote Realms released around 5 years ago in September of 2020, and has been steadily releasing content updates over the course of its lifetime. Now, one look at this game and you can tell it's a bit rough around the edges, but honestly, what indie MMO out there isn't? I was recommended this game a few times in the comment section of past videos, so I figured I would finally check this game out and see if it was any fun. So I downloaded the client from their website, created an account, and began my journey. But before I share my thoughts and opinions on it, if you like my videos and want to support the channel, please consider liking the video, commenting down below, and subscribing to the channel. Every little bit helps, and I truly appreciate the support you all give me. Anyways, is Remote Realms any good? Let's talk about it. Wait a minute, shouldn't this be an adventure awaits you? Like, awaits, not waits.
Bruh.
Remote Realms can currently only be played from the game's launcher, which is downloadable from the Remote Realms website. There is plans to eventually release the game on Steam, but as of right now, this has not been released. Once you install the game's launcher from the website and start it up, you can create your own account and log in. Logging in for the first time will greet you with a very simple tutorial that sorta teaches you how to interact with objects and navigate the menus. Once you complete this small little story sequence, you are whisked away to the world of Remote Realms, where you can properly choose how your character looks. Character creation in Remote Realms is pretty much how you'd expect it to be. You can customize your character's gender, skin, hair, and clothes, and once you are satisfied with how you look, you can leave the room you wake up in. From here and beyond, you'll get an idea of the game's graphical art style and presentation, which is very retro. The 3D assets and models are all simple in design, with most graphics and environments having a smoother, rounded look. The game looks fine for what it is, but I can't help but feel that it ironically looks a lot like Surreal Entertainment's videos, especially with the smoother, lanky character designs and movements. Sound effects are pretty much just dings and dongs you'd hear in retro video games, but I was impressed to find a full-on soundtrack here. Now, the tunes sound like early 2000 MIDI files, but I definitely felt a rush of nostalgia when hearing some of these tracks. There wasn't any particular tunes that stuck in my head, but the fact that the game does have songs to listen to while you explore the world is great to see. Circling back to the beginning area, going downstairs greets you with the innkeeper, whom will point you in the direction of the town mayor. Much like RuneScape though, you can completely ignore the game's direction and do whatever you want. Remote Realms does not hold your hand whatsoever, and lets you explore as you see fit, which can be a good and a bad thing at times. If it's your first time in Remote Realms though, I recommend you do the mini quests that the mayor provides, as it will teach you more of the game's mechanics and give you some nice rewards. As you can imagine, the game plays very much like RuneScape, with a few unique exceptions that help set it apart to make it feel a little original. But admittedly, it is basically a clone of RuneScape at its heart. For the most part, you'll be leveling up your various combat, crafting, and support skills, collecting new gear and equipment, completing quests, or partaking in the various side activities available like the PvP arena, just like you would in RuneScape. Character movement is point and click with an option to swap to a WASD movement mode. Character progression is dictated by various skills that you can level up, with a total of 27 different skills available, those being attack, strength, defense, health, ranged, magic, woodcutting, firemaking, fishing, cooking, smithing, mining, fletching, crafting, prayer, rune crafting, gathering, carpentry, farming, thieving, sailing, herblore, slayer, alchemy, masonry, trainer, and kingship. Most of the skills mentioned are pretty self-explanatory, like woodcutting or mining, but there are a few unique skills in Remote Realms that give the game some originality. Masonry, for example, allows you to build various walls or turrets in the world. Kingship allows you to create your own player-owned kingdom, as well as boost other players, working like a social support skill. Then there's the trainer skill, which is by far the best feature within Remote Realms. Trainer allows you to capture various monsters around the world of Remote Realms and keep them as your pet. Pets can be used to help you train various skills, fight in combat, or even mount for better movement. There is even more complexity to the feature, with pets having things like types, stats, potentials, enhancements, and equipable armors that allow you to min-max your pets if you really want to. The trainer skill was by far my favorite system in Remote Realms. For me, it was just a lot of fun leveling up my pets and trying to find that perfect combination of nature and boosted stats that would allow me to mold my perfect creature. It even has trainer battles just like Pokemon. So if you ever wished RuneScape had Pokemon battles similar to World of Warcraft, then Remote Realms has you covered. Though it is kind of alarming that some of the enemies that can become pets in the game are blatant ripoffs of Pokemon or Digimon.
I'm gonna sue you out of existence.
Now, I wish I could say all the skills felt as unique or original. Sure, there isn't really many ways you could put a spin on something like woodcutting or mining, but why is rune crafting here? In the world of RuneScape, rune crafting exists thematically because in the land of Gielinor, runes are what allow people within that world to cast magic. Rune crafting was a skill that effectively fit into the lore and world of RuneScape. Magic within other games like Genfinod or Highspell functioned in a similar way, but at least in those games, it was something different. Highspell had scrolls that were created via the enchanting skill. Genfinod had cards that allowed you to cast spells. Do you see where I'm going here? Remote Realms could have easily created something original for their magic, but they didn't. It's the same for skills like Prayer, Slayer, Herblore, and Firemaking. They are skills that feel like they are in the game just because RuneScape has them. Now, ironically, Remote Realms did have sailing before RuneScape, but I'll move on. So in terms of general gameplay beyond leveling up in various skills, you'll be engaging in combat, completing quests, and exploring the world, all while having to manage your energy through sleeping. The bar in the top right near your minimap is your energy meter, which can be recovered by sleeping in beds. Letting the meter completely drain results in the player falling asleep wherever you are, which looks hilarious, but it can get a bit annoying if you don't know how to recover your energy. More on that in a moment. Combat in Remote Realms is the standard point-and-click system. Simply click on an enemy and your character will begin fighting it until either the monster or you die. Now, there is an additional mechanic you can interact with in Remote Realms called the burst bar. This adds a bit of engagement to combat and various other skills. The burst bar, for some reason though, is turned off by default and has to be turned on within the settings menu. Doing so will show these bars on your screen. screen. The burst mechanic works by clicking 1, 2, 3, and 4 on your keyboard to change the colors in each corresponding bar. The goal is to remove the red and yellow colors from the bar, swapping them to blue or green. Successfully doing so will then fill the bottom bar, which allows you to burst by pressing space. Bursting in combat will have you deal extra damage, or bursting while skilling can result in faster gathering. This mechanic actually allows for a bit of skill expression within the game. Players who get good at being able to fill their burst bar will be able to deal more damage or gain experience faster. The system is admittedly a bit clunky, but I like the fact that it presents a layer of challenge to the game while playing. The biggest problem with it, though, is that it's never explained to the player.
What?
At least in a way that would properly teach a new player. Remember how you have to manage your energy or you'll fall asleep? Simply clicking on a bed or falling asleep will do nothing, which probably will confuse most players. This is because you have to engage with the burst mechanic to recover energy, something that is never shown to players, and since the burst bars are hidden by default, it's something that can get completely missed unless someone explains it to you. For such an important mechanic in the game, it's baffling to me that it's turned off by default, especially if it can stop you dead in your tracks unless you learn how to do it. The simple fix would be to have an unskippable tutorial that shows you how to use the mechanic and properly explain what it can do. I get the idea behind the system, as it does add something rewarding to players who properly learn it, but I can't begin to even understand why it would be hidden to players by default. Luckily, questing in Remote Realms is just as good as you would normally see in these types of MMOs, where things are less straightforward and the game encourages you to go out and explore. The dialogue from NPCs isn't as comedic or witty as Remote Realms competition, but there are some exceptions, and questing in general does feel rewarding. One thing you may notice as you explore the world is that Remote Realms actually has a day-night cycle, as well as weather effects like rain that affect certain things. For example, when it's raining, trees and crops apparently grow faster. When it's nighttime, NPCs will go to sleep. It's an extra touch that adds a bit more to the world in comparison to other games. Although I would admit it's a bit annoying when it's nighttime and I'm trying to talk to a specific NPC. The culmination of grinding all your skills and getting good equipment will lead you to endgame activities, which Remote Realms surprisingly has a bit of content for. There are multiple bosses available for players to fight, offering some desirable loot and items. If you like PvP, there is an open world area called No Man's Land that has a lot of the best resources that players can fight over, as well as a dedicated area where players can duel. And in general, all of your skills will take an enormous amount of time to max, so there is plenty of things to do within the game. In terms of social features, the game does have a world chat to allow players to talk to each other from wherever they are, as well as a friends list, but nothing like clans or guilds have been implemented yet. Generally, the game has a good amount of quality of life features we'd come to expect from a RuneScape-like. Things like bank tabs, shift drop, quick prayers, craft X, and more. Remote Realms can be a bit buggy though in some areas. The WASD movement rubber bands quite a lot, which kinda sucks considering some things require you to use the WASD movement like shortcuts. Sailing is pretty bad when your character rubber bands or snaps constantly back and forth, making the sailing courses nearly impossible to complete. Pets tend to disappear quite often, and commands you give them sometimes just don't work, amongst other general bugs and hiccups. Thankfully, the game is completely free to play, and it is an indie project, so small issues like this are understandable. Now, there is a cash shop available with only cosmetic items available in it. Technically, the Master's Hammer is a wieldable hammer that can apparently also be used as a normal hammer, effectively freeing up a slot in your inventory versus a normal hammer. But honestly, I'd hardly find this to be pay to win, but it is worth noting. Regardless, the items in the cash shop aren't ridiculously expensive, so if you wanted to support the developer, then this would be the way. Overall, Remote Realms isn't the greatest RuneScape-like in terms of polish, but I do see passion here. Clearly, there are some major flaws that need to be ironed out, but that's going to be true of any indie MMO project out there. A game like Remote Realms may be small, but it does fill a niche for players like me who want want to find something similar to RuneScape. It just needs more people to give it a chance, so that it can fully flesh itself out. Anyways, let's get to my final thoughts. As I've been saying quite a lot in the video, Remote Realms is obviously heavily inspired by RuneScape, so if you like that game, then you'll most likely have fun in Remote Realms. It's also completely free to play with no subscription. All the content in the game is available to all players. The game has a lot of really fun ideas, with the trainer skill being one of them. I really like robust pet systems in games, and Remote Realms has a really fun, in-depth Pokemon-like pet system in the trainer skill. I'd go as far to say it's probably the best feature that Remote Realms has going for it. If you play Remote Realms, you'll quickly find that the community is incredibly friendly. Sure, it's a very small community, but literally everyone who plays will be willing to answer questions, give help, and generally be incredibly kind to anyone who is new. On the other hand, for all the positive things I can say about Remote Realms, it unfortunately falls into the same trap as these other RuneScape likes, in the fact that it feels like it just copies entirely too much from RuneScape. There is a fine line between inspiration and blatantly ripping something off, and sometimes Remote Realms feels like it's just copying ideas from its inspiration rather than creating their own, which unfortunately a lot of these indie projects tend to do. Typically, graphics for me in games don't sway my opinion. I tend to not care if a game has good or bad graphics, but I'll comment on it because there are players out there who do care about graphics. But I think unfortunately Remote Realms is an example of a game where the graphics, even for me, are just bad. The UI and especially character models is just not aesthetically pleasing, with little substance in terms of design or detail. Finally, Remote Realms, in my opinion, really just needs a proper tutorial. Something really simple in design would help ease players into some of the game's more unique mechanics. Right now, without any sort of explanation or prior research, the game's more enticing content will just get missed, or even worse, players will just quit before they even get to experience it. And that is Remote Realms, ladies and gentlemen. It's really not a bad game. It can really be a lot of fun at times, especially with the unique skills the game has, but I can see why it fails to hook in a lot of potential players. However, I do think the developer is dedicated enough to the project and will iron out the game's issues over time. The biggest hurdle it will have, though, is players actually giving it a fair shot. Anyways, are you playing Remote Realms? Comment below and let me know. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to support my content. Follow all my social media links in the description below, like our Discord community, and I hope to see you all next time.